Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode is going to be with my buddy Mathew Corley. Mathew, I met him at TAC last year, and the dude is an awesome dude. First off, one hell of a hunter. Really knows how to lay the smack down on some of those does, and then obviously, he's I think he showed me some really good photos of some bucks he had on camera last year. So we're going to dive into everything that he's getting into. I know he has a YouTube channel. We're going to talk about that. Just going to talk about, I guess, how he got into hunting, what he's got coming up for content, and, where we see our seasons headed. So, I'm sure there's going to be some really good conversations here. But before we get started, keep it short. Obviously, we got to do the partners. So first up is going to be the Boutique. Great custom arrow builds from Michael Stonebreaker at the Boutique LLC. He also does custom arrow wraps that are literally nobody on the market does them better than him. So go check him out. Go to the Boutique LLC.com and look at everything he's got. Once you do, use the code SEBHP for free shipping. Next up is going to be Osseo gear. Man, I can't say it enough. Osseo is by far the best camo I've ever used. That Raptor pattern is honestly top notch, man. By far outperforming stuff I've used in the past. So go to osseogear.com. I know that they just dropped a couple new late season stuff. I actually plan on getting a late season hoodie or jacket. I'm not really sure yet. Because it's starting to get colder here in Georgia, and even being from Illinois, that early season stuff will not keep me warm like I need to be. But the pattern is amazing, the quality is amazing, and then obviously Joe Miles, the owner, is one hell of a deer hunter. The dude's killed some giants. So I trust his product. I think you will too. So when you go to osseogear.com and you pick out all the stuff you want, whether it's a whole setup, whole outfit, or just a hat, just a beanie, gloves, whatever, use the code SEBH, and that saves you 15%. Next up is going to be Summit tree stands. Finally taking my Summit out to another spot. By the time this episode drops, I would have already hunted, but I'm going to another private spot that is always on fire on the 25th. So I took that day off from work. I'm going to be going in there. I got a new deer on camera called Split. He is a typical 10-point, but he has a split G2, and dude, he would definitely be the biggest deer I've ever shot. He is showing up pretty regularly and close to daylight. He hasn't daylighted yet, but on the 25th, I have noticed that these bucks over there like to, they just, if I'm going to have a deer daylight, it's always on the 25th. So we're going to give that a shot. Hopefully you guys will be hearing about a successful story. Speaking of successful stories, real quick, this has something to do with my Summit. Last week, finally got a deer on the ground. Shot a doe last Saturday, and dude, she died within 30 seconds at 30 yards. I mean, just a perfect hunt. The reason I bring it up is because my Summit was absolutely flawless in that whole thing. Got up the tree quietly, was comfortable. You heard me mention earlier about my camo being, the early season stuff not keeping me warm. I'm not going to lie to y'all, I was shivering like crazy. But I do have some photos that I could show you, and that Osseo kept me concealed so well. Just like that Summit did getting up the tree quietly. I was going after trike. He was in there when I actually pulled up to the road that leads down to this spot. So I had to sit there for about 20 minutes, let him walk off. And then unfortunately I didn't see him, but I'm cool with it. Got to get a good doe on the ground, broke the ice. So we are on the board with that. So if you're looking to change your tree stand setup, go to summitstands.com, get what I trust, because I think you guys would really like it, whether it's climbers, hang-ons, whatever, and use the code SEBH15 for 15%. Now, one other thing I want to talk about. I know I said I was going to keep this intro short. Matthew's waiting on us, but I need to bring this up. So we had a buddy, me and Andy and a few of our friends had a local guy that we know who fell out of his tree stand. That makes number 5 for the past month. There is a GoFundMe. I probably should have been better prepared for this, unfortunately, but His name's Josh, and I just wanted to talk about how important tree stand safety is. So if you guys are one of those people that just doesn't think, and I actually think, I'm going to bring this up in today's episode and talk with Matthew about it, but his name is Josh Gravely, and he's got a GoFundMe account that Andy from Double A Outdoors TV posted on his Facebook page. I also shared it. Man, he's in the hospital. He's in good condition, but it was a rough fall, and the only reason it happened is because he wasn't wearing a harness. So tree stand safety is extremely crucial. Okay, I've climbed a tree without a harness one time, and of course that was the one time I almost dropped my platform. Now you're gonna get guys that say, "Oh, well, if you sticks," dude, I don't care. I don't care. If you're getting up in a tree, whether you've got a family waiting for you at home or not, you need to wear your harness. Okay. And if you can't find one that, like, say, you're on the bigger side or whatever, they still make them for bigger guys. I know Hunter Safety Systems makes them. Pretty sure Summit makes them. So I want to just bring that up real quick. Pray for Josh. If you can go to the GoFundMe and donate something to help his family while he's dealing with all of this, that would be amazing. If you want the link to it, I can send the link to you, or you can just go to Southeastern Bowhunter on Facebook, or you can go to Double A Outdoors TV on Facebook, and you can see it there. So praying for you, Josh. Hope you heal up, man. And I hate that happened to you, but this has to stop. This has to stop. We can't keep having guys fall out of trees, man. This is not okay. So getting away from all that, next up's gonna be Scout Tech. Scout Tech camera's been working great. I actually just moved a tree out of the way of one of mine, which is how I was able to finally see splits. It is on the ridge, or a ridge that's on this property, and it's been working flawlessly. So go to scouttech.com, look at everything they got to offer. There is a new camera coming. There is an app update coming. There is unlimited data coming. They're still recovering from the hurricane, so bear with them on that. All right, we're going to fly through these. Ace Hardware and Soul Circle, awesome bow shop, awesome people. A bunch of buddies of mine work there. A bunch of buddies of mine go there, and they cover everything that you need to be lethal and deadly in the woods. They also will obviously work on your bow and get you set up. They did mine, and it has been perfect since I got it back 4 months ago. So go check them out. Next up, Bergie Bowsmith. Bergie is going to be getting my bow to fine tune it after this deer season and put some new unbound strings on there. Bergie is a dealer for a bunch of different companies, so go to bergiebowsmith.com. Either check out what he has on there as far as what he's a dealer for, and also you can set up for him to tune your bow. And when you do all of that, use the code SEBH10 for 10%. VPA, the Omega with Bleeders, is an extremely well-made broadhead. Every broadhead that VPA makes is one solid piece construction, except for the Omega with Bleeders, which it's basically the Omega, so a solid piece, and then you've got some bleeders that slide in there. Great blade retention. Both it's a single bevel. I call it a 4-blade. It's really, the blades are big enough it could be considered a 4-blade, but just awesome broadheads. So go to vparchery.com and check out all that they have. There's over 70 different types you can choose from, ranging from 100 grain all the way to 300 grain. And when you do that, whatever you pick out, use the code SEBH10 to save 10%. Next up is going to be Dialed Archery. As you guys know, I'm using the Dialed Arxos. Absolutely love that sight, but they just came out with a new one called the Proof. I do plan on having Scott come on after deer season to talk about it and give us all the details on it. So, guys like me who read a bunch of these things and then I'm just like, oh, that's a cool looking sight. You actually can learn what that sight is and what it'll do for you to improve your hunting and also improve your archery. Next up is going to be Camo Dust. Once again, man, Camo Dust has saved me time and time again from whiskey wins and does whose noses know no bounds. I love that stuff. Chris should be coming on next week, hopefully. If we can schedule that, that'll be an awesome episode. If not, I will get him back on to talk about everything that they've been up to. So go to camodust.com and check out everything that they have. It's extremely affordable and it works unbelievably well. Next up is going to be Typical Sportsman. My buddy Dylan Ray, host of the Bear Archery podcast. He's kind of got his own little side thing going on called the Typical Sportsman. That's exactly what he is, and he says it himself. We did an episode a few weeks ago and talked about all of that. He's just an awesome dude. So go to typicalsportsman.com, look at everything he has to offer, and at the checkout, use the code typical20. Last but not least, it can be Full Force Hunting Products. Now, that is a company based out of Michigan. My buddy Dan runs. He did send me some stuff to try out, and so far it has been working awesome. He does a whole scent line with a scent rope, mock scrape stuff, but he also does minerals and attractants, which is something that I'm very interested in. And I can tell you, I did put out, he has this molasses attractant. I put it out and the deer were hammering it. Like, honestly, I thought my data was going to go over and my cameras were going to die. Every couple hours, man, those deer were in on it. And it's not a big bag either, which is nuts. So go check him out. Yeah, man, that's all the partners. Obviously, as you know, before we get started with Mathew, if you don't know Jesus Christ, please get to know him. I fully give God the credit for me being able to get that dough. And I could go into the whole story. It doesn't, long story short, I really didn't think I was going to see anything. And I know it's just a dough to some of y'all, but I did get emotional. There's been a lot going on in my life. Just completely outside of hunting. There's been a lot of stressful things happening, and Jesus got me through that. And then finally being able to get, a deer on the ground, and for her to die so quickly after losing one earlier this year, it was a huge relief, honestly. So yeah, look, I don't mean to always, just compare Jesus and hunting and all of that, but truly it is a big thing. And if you want to hear me go into more in depth on it, or you just want to hear me talk for an hour and a half, go to the Hunting the Mason-Dixon podcast. My episode with Jordan just dropped last week. And honestly, it was a great time. Jordan's a great dude. And we do talk about why my faith is so strong and where I get that from. Because honestly, in the beginning, it was not like that. Now it's getting better every day. It's growing every single day. Jesus will do the same for you. Seriously. We're all going through tough times right now, and I don't know where I'd be without him. And hopefully this message reaches one person. If I can just get one person to give their life to him, that would mean the world to me. And I would know that I'm doing my job correctly. So, all right, that's the intro. I know there's going to be a lot of good things to hear from Mathew. So let's get into it. Mathew Corley. So we got my buddy Mathew Corley on today. Mathew and I met at TAC. I said that in the intro, but I'm starting it off like that. I was at the VPA booth and he comes walking up, and remind me if I'm wrong, but I was wearing the podcast shirt and you were like, "Hey, Southeastern Bow Hunter, is that yours?" I was like, yeah. You're like, "Yeah, man, I've listened to yours a couple of times. It's pretty good." And then we started talking, and ever since then, dude, like, we've been in contact quite a bit. And you showed me you told me some stories about last season about some does you shot and I'm sitting there like, dude, I shot like 2, and I'm over here thinking I did something. You're over here freaking almost tagged out, whatever it was. And so yeah, just tell everybody who you are, man, and what you do. I know you have a YouTube channel. Forgive me, my brain is absolutely terrible. I think I know what it is, but it's Dead Weight Outdoors, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So
yeah, so just tell us all about it, man.
I'm a 33-year-old plumber. When COVID hit, we bought a bunch of weapons because we thought the world was coming to an end. So so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something with these weapons instead of letting them collect dust, because I'm not one to go out and like target shoot. There's something about the loud percussion of a firearm. I don't need to hear it every day. So, I told my buddy, who his family owns the property I hunt, told him I was going to start deer hunting. Everybody and their mama doubted me and said I would never be able to do it. I took an AR-15 that shoots 223, 5.56 out hunting the very first time.
How big is the property?
One of them is 185 acres, and the other one's 84 acres, I believe.
So with all that land, they thought you wouldn't be able to kill anything?
Well, they thought that I wouldn't be able to be a good deer hunter.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm on 1 acre, and I see deer every time. Like,
yeah. Well,
I think that's right.
I don't think they thought I couldn't see them. They thought I just wouldn't be able to fully grasp the concept of what deer hunting is. And there's a lot of, anybody can get lucky, walk out there and shoot one deer. That you catch them off guard and shoot them all day.
Yeah.
But it takes some sort of studying of the animal and everything else to be able to learn what they're doing and how to best get them close to you and how to seize the opportunity when they do come close.
And
But
how not to let them drive you crazy throughout the season like mine keep doing. I haven't learned that yet.
yeah, my hair's going gray this season.
Yeah.
Compared this season compared to last season, I was already, 6 or 7 deer in when rifle season opened.
Jeez, man.
And then, pretty much just stacked them with the rifle after that. Because I'm not one of those hunters that, you only have to bow hunt to be a hunter. No, that's not true.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to use the bow when it's legally required for me to use that bow until the day I don't have to use it no more. And as soon as rifle season comes in, I'm going to the rifle. It's more efficient. I'm going to kill more deer, and it takes less time. And it's a little bit easier. It is. I mean, can't nobody argue with you on that. So I'm one of them people. We eat deer 100% of the time. We don't eat beef or pork really. We wrap our deer in pork most of the time.
I was about to say, you tell me you don't throw bacon on them suckers sometimes, because if not, you're missing out.
Yeah. But we don't eat store-bought beef because, like I said, I distrust the government a little bit. And my views on the food is I think they're trying to hurt us with it. So we went to all venison diet, and so far, it's been perfectly happy. Well, I started hunting, got obsessed with the kind of like science behind deer, moved and just took that and kind of ran with it. And then last season had the best season I've had. And me and my daughter both have license, so she goes with me, and she's my video recorder. She records all the videos.
Oh, okay.
So she goes with me, and sometimes she'll shoot, like especially during youth rifle season. She carries the gun the whole time. I'm more or less there for moral support, and I'm working the camera
and to pull the deer out.
Well, that too. I'm gonna drive down in there and get it. So basically, she wanted to do a YouTube channel, and I doing a hunting channel was my way of supporting what she wanted to do. And we're trying to make it something that people want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hunt the same way you hunt. Everybody hunts differently, and that's the main thing. Is some people think you have to kill a 400-inch deer to validate going into the woods. No, in Georgia, I get 10 does, 2 bucks, and I'm trying to kill all 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
If I could kill them all 12 in one day, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, and if you're eating deer like as the only source of meat, you're going to have to. I mean, we do like chicken. Mostly, honestly, the only meat we really eat is deer and chicken. And I was actually talking to my wife about this, and it didn't really hit me until it hit me, because I asked her, I was like, so how many deer do you want me to try and kill this year? Just, curiosity. And she's like, well, you killed 2 bucks, what was it, 4 years ago, and we had meat for a while. You killed 1 2 years ago, and he lasted a while. You killed 2 last year. We still have some meat left over. I don't know, 3, 4. I was like, all right, so 2 does, 2 bucks. Got it. Like that, I'm already 1 down. I got 1 more to go for does, 2 more for bucks. I mean, tagging out on bucks is, if I wanted to shoot a little one, I'd already be tagged out. But
yeah,
you and I both know that's not what we're out there to do. So, I don't know. I feel like Georgia's really generous with their tags. I've told buddies in different states, they're like, well, how many do you get? I'm like, 12. And you should hear them, dude. They're like, what? I'm like, what? Yeah, 10 does, 2 bucks. I mean, if you knew these Georgia deer, it's not like you can just walk out your back door. I mean, some people can. My brother-in-law, God, dude, he's got
his walk right out the back door, shoot him off the back porch.
Yeah. If you put any type of feed out there, and I may have told this story on here already. If not, I'll tell you, because I know I didn't tell you. I was there 2 weeks ago, just hanging out. I think we were going up to the mountains or something. So we stayed out. He lives in Alpharetta. So we were staying at his place, and he had some old deer feed. Now, this was moldy, year-old Booner blend that he bought when he got the house. And I said, hey, man, put some food out. Like, you want to see these deer, put some food out. I never asked him to hunt it, and just was being respectful. And so he was off somewhere with some of his buddies. So we were hanging out with my sister-in-law, and I was like, "Hey, where's that deer feed at?" So she was like, "Oh, it's in the shed. Go grab it." So I went and grabbed it, poured it out, spread it apart, spread it out some so it's not just one pile, and realized it was moldy. I was like, "Man, I don't know if they're gonna eat it." It was maybe 3 hours. There was a ton of does come running up, probably about 6 or 7 of them, and then they all go away. An hour after that, right when it's getting dark, I saw 4 bucks. Okay, 4 different bucks came walking up. One of them I knew because I already seen him. But the other three, there was 2 2-year-olds, and these other two had to have been, I'd say, 3.5 to 4.5. Just what I know about that area of deer. They're bigger than anything I have on camera except for one deer. And they're that young. So I called him up. I was like, "Dude, I will pay you. Please, just one sit is all I need. Just one sit." Don't let me do it. So you and I don't have it that easy, right? Like, we can't just throw food out and have a Pope and Young walk up and not even care that you're sitting there. Because, dude, I'm telling you, if you would have said yes, I would have had my bow with me the next day, and I'd have been standing on that porch, and I would not have felt bad about it at all. Like,
And
it's
now we know why some people poach.
well, I mean, I wouldn't really call it. That's not poaching.
Not if you steal it from your
Permission.
family.
Yeah, I'm not CJ Alexander going 26 miles and shooting a 235-inch deer and then trying to claim. You know what? I'm not even going to dive into that yet. We did talk about it. We are going to cover some new stuff, but anyway, back to you. You eat nothing but deer. You're
No,
basically a coyote. So
yes.
so I mean, how is your season going this year? Like, you
So,
said last
so
year was
far,
great, but
so far I've gotten 3 under our belt. I've been talking with you about concerns with my compound bow, and
mhm,
when you eat deer meat, there's a certain amount of let's get after it, let's get it done that you have to do. So we condensed our life down. We moved into a camper, and my freezer is at my buddy's house, and we live on his property. Uh, while we buy our land and build our house. So, the only right thing to do is be like, hey, it's there if you need some meat to cook for dinner, do it. So
mhm.
that meat's supplying me, my wife, my child, my buddy, his girlfriend, and his kid. So,
Wow.
and I know we killed 14 last year. I recovered 13 of them. The 14th one was a oddball situation. She should have never got that far away. I don't know how she did because the shot was perfect, but apparently she was real determined and she got across the property line. And where we hunt at, you don't want to just go jumping people's fences and stealing your deer back
Yeah.
because it could
That's
result in you getting in some trouble, possibly getting shot at.
Yeah, I think we all can probably relate to that. I know I did my fair share of what's the word? Ignorant trespassing early on. Um, so yeah, I mean that. But again, I mean, see, it's so interesting, dude, because you and I both have completely different outlooks on this. I feel like, or maybe not outlooks, but situations, right? Like, I'm not shooting another doe for a month. I'm strictly buck hunting. I've got the specific deer I want to kill. I'm sure you've got specific bucks you want to kill, but you're also not opposed to shooting a doe if she steps out.
Well, I believe it was Giannis Patelis. If you ever watch Meat Eater, Giannis Patelis is like the one thing I know him for is you don't pass something on the first day that you would shoot on
Mm-hmm.
the last.
Yep.
So the way I see it is if I sit all day. So I
Yeah.
go out there at 4:30 in the morning and get wherever I'm going and I sit. If midday comes around and I ain't seen nothing, I'll walk the property down to a lower gate. And if I don't jump anything out of a bed and like with rifle and shoot it
Mm-hmm.
during archery season, I don't leave that blind. I go to the blind, walk back up the road, back to the car. But with rifle season, I can shoot them a little bit further off, so we'll walk it out. And if it jumps them up out of the bed and they run across that sewer easement, it's on and popping. They're dead. Uh, so if I sit there all day long, I'm not going to waste that full day.
Yeah.
because time is money, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
so I've got a bunch of money already invested in sitting there all day long
Yeah.
because my time is valuable. So if I'm going out there searching for a big buck and a good sized doe comes out, I feel bad for her because I'm gonna put her in the freezer. And that's basically my mentality now. I've got my best friend's one of them guys. He wants to kill a big buck, and
Hmm.
I've killed my share of big bucks. I killed my second year hunting and my third year hunting. I probably killed the two biggest bucks I've ever killed. They're beautiful deer. I've done forgot what they look like because they're still at the taxidermist.
Oh, wow.
So
Sounds like you might need to call your taxidermist, man. Make sure they're still there.
they're still there.
Okay.
I call him about every 2 months.
Okay, I was gonna say because I had an incident with this deer over here on the wall. You can't see him, but I dropped him off he was one of the deer I killed in 2020. I didn't get him back until a few weeks before season started in 2022. And I was getting a runaround. I was getting, because obviously COVID was happening, so that was an excuse that was used. Then I heard something about, oh, I lost a helper, this, and this. And I finally said, I was like, listen, if you still have the rack, which you better, I'm coming to get it. I was like, because I don't even care at this point. Keep the money. I just want the deer back. I'm sick of worrying about this. I got my buck back 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So
Well, the guy, I live in Griffin. So the guy we use is down there in Pike County, and I ain't gonna put his name out there because I ain't talking bad about him. He's a nice guy,
yeah.
Upstanding gentleman. He's had some health issues, some pretty severe health issues, and it put him behind. And it's like $600 a mount. So
Yeah.
hold on to him if you need to, and take your time with him. I want him to look great, and I'll pay as we go. And whenever they're done, I'll get them back.
Now I feel like a dick. In real life.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why it took him so long. He's a taxidermist. He ain't taking that long. Reason. Take that long. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was struggling with in that situation, man. Is like, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. You tell me that because the whole reason I got to the point I did is when I dropped it off, I was told it would be done by June of that year. Okay. Yeah. So you give me a time frame, I'm gonna hold you to that time frame unless you tell me otherwise. So when I text you and say, hey, asking for an update, I don't get anything. I wait a month. I gave you a month grace period. I ask again, still nothing. Just I had COVID or whatever. I was in the hospital. Okay, fine. Hope you're doing better. Just
get back to work.
Yeah, like when do you think? And he's like, oh, October. So October rolls around. Text him up again. It's another excuse. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Like, dude, I gave probably 10 different chances. And so I went a whole 2 years almost without getting my deer back and just getting the runaround. And I had enough. I was like, dude, I don't even care. He's not even a giant deer. He's just the first big buck that I ever shot. And I mean, he probably, honestly, looking at him, doesn't score 80 inches, 90 inches. I mean, but to me, that was a big deer at the time, So
that whole score thing makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
When I shot my first big deer, the first thing I sent you some pictures of bucks that were on one of our pieces of property.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Now we do have a standard.
Yeah.
We ain't shooting spikes. So basically what I do is I count points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I pull the trigger. If it's past the 8 point, I'm feel sorry for it because I'm gonna put it in the freezer too and hang his head on the wall. I've never had anybody score any of my deer. I'm proud of them, but so the way I see it is, if you shine bright, if you're happy when that deer walks out and it gets your blood boiling and you're shaking, then the deer's worth shooting.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny too, because like as a kid, because I think you started hunting in 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you and I started the exact same time.
Yeah, I started like during COVID, the Thanksgiving of COVID.
Yeah.
I went hunting the weekend, like the Saturday and Sunday after COVID.
Oh, see, I started I want to say it was the first or second weekend of November in 19. And first sit, I've told the story 1,000 times. I'm not going to go into it, but long story short, I played deer hunter my entire life. And so I'm thinking I'm going to shoot a giant 10-point because there was a big 10-point on the property. Went with my buddy, asked him, hey, can I shoot, anything? He's like, dude, I don't care. He knew better. He knew that buck wasn't going to show up most likely. And he told me that, but I didn't believe him. And my first deer was a, 60-inch 8-point. Still probably one of the best stories that I could ever tell because, and if I go into full detail, I'm sure you've heard it, but yeah, dude, like I used to look at deer and not even think, I didn't even know you could score them like that. I thought it was just, oh, that's a 10-point. That's a big buck. Now I know you can get a 50-inch 10 and him be stupid small, and you can get a 130-inch 6-point. And, if you go off of the points, nobody knows. And even if you say 130, you tell my mother-in-law that doesn't hunt, that doesn't even like hunting, what a 130-inch deer is, she's going to be like, what does that mean? Is that from his nose to his tail? And it's like, no, that's not even remotely close to what that is. But yeah, the score thing's weird, man. Like I've gone back and forth, caring about it, not caring about it. I think when it's not season, I care more about it because when it is season and I realize that the 130-inch deer I thought I was hunting is maybe 115, I'm like, well, you know what? He's going to look good. I don't care. Like Pickles back here is 102. All summer, I thought he was a 120-inch deer. And then he shed velvet. I shot him, got him scored, and he was 102. And I was like, well, he's got six brow tines, so I don't care. Like, that's cool as shit to me. So
yeah, the funny looking ones are I ain't gonna lie to you. A typical rack's nice and beautiful, but the funny looking ones, that's the ones. If there's a funny looking one, I'm gonna shoot it first.
Yeah.
First of all, just to do the old school, get the genetics off of the place, and secondly, because that funny looking buck has to fight 3 times as hard as a normal looking buck just to be able to mate and produce offspring.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact they're producing offsprings. We had 2 deer. One we named righty, and one we named lefty. It's a 1 point on one side, 5 point on the other.
Oh,
right?
No.
Right. And when they first come in the aging deer, I think people are a little off on aging deer.
That has been so tough for me this year. I only know one deer that 100% is what I think he is. Everything else, I'm just guessing. Because Georgia deer are so hard to age.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
We had 2 deer we named righty and lefty, and we designated them the kids' deers. We're gonna let the kids shoot them because last season they were 3 years old. This year, lefty managed to make it through rifle season. Righty did not. He ended up meeting the end. My daughter killed him on the opening day of youth rifle season, so she killed him. And lefty managed to make it through. So lefty is now a 6 point on this side and a 2 point on this side, and he's 4 years old. He's got like a crab claw over here.
Yeah.
So, and I know for a fact, I've had pictures of that deer when he was a spike and what he is now. I know I've had 4 years worth of pictures of that deer.
Yeah.
If you've seen his body, you would be like, oh, that's a 7, 8 year old deer. He's got the body of an old deer.
Dang.
But he's not
old.
Producing anything as an antler. He's not. He's got genetics. His genetics are bad, and he's probably going to do the same thing his dad done. And I'm pretty sure I killed his dad. So I got his dad right here. So
keeping it in the
family. I'm fairly certain I got his dad right there. So
dude,
I'm pretty sure I killed his dad. And whatnot, and he's still kicking it. But them 2 deer were side by side all year. Even during rut and everything, they would come into the camera together. And Izzy last year got the opportunity in youth rifle season to take one of them out because they were walking through the field together. And we just walked out and she popped him.
That's crazy. I mean, I have seen that. Like I chased a deer for 2 years called Tank, who when I first saw him, I said, oh, he's 5.5 years old, 100%. But then he was huge. His body was huge. He was probably a 120-inch deer. I mean, goes back again to the scoring the antlers thing. I showed one guy that buck and said, what do you think he is? He said 130. I showed a guy that has killed 35 bucks over 130, and he goes, "Oh, he's 110-inch deer." And I'm like, "How in the? Are you sure?" I'm like, "He's got a huge body and all of that." And it Georgia deer are just weird. They're just super, super weird. I'm convinced trike is 5, and I'm only convinced of that because I saw him in person 3 weeks ago, and he's freaking huge, way bigger than he was in the summertime. But that's also rut weight. That's also winter weight. So he could be 3.5, and he's just a big bodied deer. So it is tougher. I mean, aging deer is one thing. I'm good enough now. I could look at a deer and say, okay, he's older than 2.5. If he's older than 2.5 and he looks good, I'm going to shoot him. You know what I mean?
The way I do it is if you're looking at the top of their back and that back dips down real bad,
they're old.
I think the severity of that dip dictates how old they are. So if it's obvious that they're low hanging back, oh yeah, I'm old. Go ahead and take a shot on him. But I've got some deer that 2 years old and they're 10 points.
Yeah.
And I think it more has something to do with genetics. And you've been able to, if you know every deer that's ever been on that piece of property and you got a catalog of photos, then you should be able to somewhat say, well, that deer looks close to this, so I know he's about 4 years old.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Other than that, go into a piece of public land and the 10-point walks out,
he's dead.
I don't know how old he is.
Yeah.
And it does not matter. I'm going to shoot him.
Yep. Public land's a special thing, man. I'm excited for the archery hunt we've got up here in a few weeks because I had one buck that was outside his ears. He definitely would have been Pope young last year before he broke some of his tines off. And he daylighted on the 15th. Well, the first day of the hunt this year is on the 15th. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going. I mean, I am 100% going that weekend. And it's just fun because public land, you don't have to worry about anything. You want to shoot a spike, you can shoot a spike, and you don't have to get fined. You will burn a tag, but if it's late season and you're like, dude, I just want to kill a buck, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's going to be people listening to that and be like, oh, well, no, if you want public land to be better, you should shoot the older ones. Well, yeah, but if you can't find them and you're just wanting to shoot something, go and shoot it. I don't care. So
yeah, and this might sound like naive from a person who has the ability to hunt private land, but when you're hunting public land, that's not your deer. No. That's everybody's deer. That's the state's deer, and they're allowing you the opportunity to take it and harvest it. So I might not shoot it, but you might shoot it.
Yeah.
And why would I not take the shot if it presents itself? All because some moral code says, hey, I can't shoot a 4-point.
Yeah, well, doing deer management on public is impossible. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. So, well, all right, let's transition a little bit because, you and I did talk a little bit before the podcast about some current events in the hunting world. And I know I touched on this last week, but there's more stuff going on that I've learned through listening to other podcasts, talking with buddies. This whole CJ Alexander buck thing is really blowing up, man. Like there's more stuff coming out that I felt bad for the kid. And now at first. Now I don't think he was prosecuted hard enough. I think not having jail time and only having to pay stuff back and then not be able to get a legal license for 5 years, I have to say it's bullshit. I think it's total bullshit. Because what he did was take away an opportunity of a lifetime for those people hunting around there. Because it came out, there was people that knew about that deer. Somehow the photos didn't come out. I'm sure they will eventually. But seeing conversations he's had with other people that run podcasts and seeing his admission of guilt, he literally admitted to poaching this deer. And yet he's acting like there's nothing wrong with it. And, you were saying earlier you don't trust the government, right? I don't either. No. And we were talking a little bit about, every time a buck somewhat touches the world record, there's always something weird that goes with it. There's always
controversy.
Yeah.
About
so what's your opinion on this whole CJ Alexander situation?
Well, my whole thing is we live, and this might be right field, but we live in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't own the property, then don't go on it. So that's the common sense way of thinking. I don't own that piece of property. I don't have permission to hunt that piece of property. I'm not going on it. That's an integrity thing that you hold inside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you should be allowed to go kill a deer if you want to feed your family, and there's an actual need for it. But when you're doing it for a popularity grab or a money grab, because some of these people kill big bucks, and the next thing you know, they're household names on TV.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And I think he's seen that as an opportunity as, oh, I can kill this buck, and then Bass Pro will pay me $1 million to put it in their museum. And I think it might be Milo Hanson's estate might pay me millions of dollars to keep it out of the record books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a money grab, and that's part of an industrial part of hunting that makes it all bad. Because I'm not stupid. If I don't kill the deer on my property, I might tell my wife and I might tell my buddy, but I ain't telling nobody else.
Yeah.
And nobody else never know I killed it.
That was the biggest thing for me too, is like if it was a 150-inch deer, which he actually did get caught for doing that with a 150-inch deer. This isn't the only deer he's poached. He's been doing this for years. And that again blows my mind that they're not completely putting this guy away.
Like, and that might be the part with he was hunting without a license. Might be one of the reasons why he was hunting without a license. It's because he had done been allegedly accused of poaching before.
Yeah.
And when it ain't something as big as this, it's okay. You receive your ticket, you lose your game license for up to 5 years, possibly longer. It could work its way into a lifetime ban, but once you do it one time and you get away with it, and it's just a slap on the wrist, I think it makes it easier to go out and do the same thing again.
Yeah. Well, and like I think it would just be, it'd be one thing if he killed this deer and kind of like the Virginia cemetery buck, the Hollywood buck that got killed last year.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that deer. Everyone knew where it was. You could not hunt it. Some dude went in there, poached it, started posting on Facebook. Never went on any podcast, never went to North American Whitetail or any of that, but he started posting it and he got caught.
Yeah.
That to me is still stupid, but at least you didn't go on some of the biggest podcasts, get your name and the story, and basically the biggest one, or well, I should say one of the biggest magazine companies in the entire industry. Yeah. And it's like, dude, and then you think it's okay to go on social media and be like, well, sorry, I told the wrong story, guys, but they're saying I spotlighted it and that stuff. I shot that deer in daylight, and he's trying to justify it. And it's like, no. Here's the point. You did not have a license. You went to a property that was 26 miles away. That is not your property. You didn't have
permission to hunt it.
Exactly. You shot this deer, and then you made up this story saying that you were on your sister's land that's 30 acres when it's really 9, and that you forgot your phone, and all these other things. They pulled the phone records. He's over here talking about, babe, I'm talking to his fiance. He's like, babe, this deer is a life-changing deer. This deer can get us house money. That right there is the wrong reason to do it. I don't care. Yeah. Even if it's legal. Even if it's legal, it's the wrong reason to do it. No. Because hunting shouldn't be about money.
I don't go out and hunt so I can be living high on the hog. I go out and hunt because it's a way of life, and I fell in love with it when I got into it. So nothing I do is to create a profit. It's just there's a 30-year-old dude somewhere who's never done this. And I want to be able to show him, hey, man, you can take the bottom dollar equipment into a okay piece of woods and kill deer. You don't have to have the top of the line stuff. That's the whole point of our YouTube channel, is to show I'm going to use the bottom line equipment, and I'm going to kill more deer than people who are using big brand name stuff.
Yeah.
To do it as a money grab just takes the point behind it, just away what going into the woods is, what deer hunting. It takes it all away once you put money involved in it. And if he did it solely as a money grab, then he's just the world's biggest piece of shit.
Yeah, which that's what it seems like he did.
And Yeah, I don't want to talk bad about him because I don't talk bad about anybody. That's
Yeah.
just not who. That's not the character I present. But Charles Beatty killed all kind of deer off somebody else's land, and people. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's Hunter's Advantage podcast biggest podcast.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that
30,000 views in a day. They told me that, and I was like, I tried to get Charles on, and scheduling and all this other stuff. That's a whole story in itself. And again, I'm not. And let me just take a step back. I'm not trying to talk shit about CJ or Charles or any of these guys, but it's the actions that I'm mad about. I don't know.
it's what
I've
he done.
talked to CJ. I'm a little bit mad that I was supporting him in the beginning because at first I'm like, oh, big government, they're going after this kid. And then he admits it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just a dumbass then because I had all these red flags. I ignored it. Just like I used to think the Ron Polo book is real. You look at all those red flags and it's like, there ain't no way. But
We all like to believe that the sun shines on a dog's butt every now and then, right?
Mhm.
That's age-old saying.
yeah,
So when he first come out and, I heard the whole thing with him and the Hunter's Advantage podcast, and I believe Christian told him straight to his face, bro, if this comes out and you're lying, you're the biggest narcissist the planet has ever seen.
yeah,
And that seems to be a factual statement as of right this moment. And some people do get lucky.
Yeah.
Walk out there and just
Dustin Huff.
Prime
He's a
example.
perfect
Dustin
example.
Huff went to the tree with a crossbow and killed the biggest deer that he'll probably ever kill in his life.
Biggest deer in America, still standing. Biggest typical that anyone's taken down in the past 3 years.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's
should have been the world record. If you take that buck and you take the Hanson buck, I'm sorry. Like I say that to the day I die until a bigger buck comes along. That kind of can lead us into another conversation that's related to this, but we'll save that for a minute because I know we're still on this Alexander thing, and there's one thing about it I've said multiple times. I want to say it again, but the thing about the whole situation with CJ is I forgive you for shooting a deer and taking that away from somebody. Not like he needs my forgiveness, but the Lord says, "Forgive and you will be forgiven."
exactly.
So I do my best at that. But the one thing he did do that I am still mad about, and I don't know if it's my place to forgive him for this. Revenge is the Lord's, so I'm letting God handle that one.
Yeah.
But when he goes on a podcast and he tells this whole story that's all fake, and he knows it's fake. CJ is the only one, him and his buddy are the only two that know the story is fake. But you present it as real, and you try to bring God into it and say, God blessed me. He did this, he did that. And then you're lying. That right there is when this all came out, I wasn't mad that he killed the deer more than I was mad you brought God into this. And now I guess you could say he just used that as like a I'm telling the truth kind of thing to convince people,
Yeah, he
that's
used
disgusting.
that to convince.
Like,
and that's because when he was like, apparently he's going through some hard times, and he was like, God presented me with this, and I think that because I try to be as big of a Christian as I can be, so I think in life God does present you with things sometimes, but if God gives me a gift, it's betwixt me and God.
mm-hmm.
And if God gives me that gift, it's not for you or anybody else. It's for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go share it with anybody.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is he used that to make the world feel, like he's fighting hard times. God gave him this gift. It was a feel-good story.
Yeah. It was
to find out it was 100% a lie.
Yeah. So, and he still is using Bible quotes and stuff after admitting what he did and saying the whole story was a lie. Like he said something about, I forget exactly what verse it was, but it was the one where Jesus said, take the what was it? He's like, don't point out the speck in your brother's eye when you don't see the plank in yours. And I'm like, dude, you've got a whole damn tree in your eye. What are you talking about?
Like, it's not our integrity that's in question.
Yeah. And he's like, man, all the haters, I'll be back. I'm like, dude, get out of here. No, the only use that CJ has now is because he's been doing this, and we both know, okay, yeah, okay, he can't get a legal hunting license for 5 years. He has to pay $40,000 in restitution. I promise you, he is still going to be hunting deer. He is still going to be poaching. This is not the last time we heard of him, and the only use I see out of him is to actually help ODNR because he's figured out how to do this and not get caught, to catch other people to do it. Kind of like the Jordan Belfort situation, which I got that idea off of another podcast I heard, and it made sense. It made a lot of sense because it's like, dude, yeah, if you're doing something illegal and you get caught, well, if you've been doing it for a long time and you're good at it, why not help? If you really want to make it up to people, you really want to turn your life around. Exactly. Go help catch other guys. Don't be selfish and be like, oh, well, I'm in Ohio. I'm going to go shoot a 260-inch deer now. It's just sickening, man. But one thing I want to, sorry, go ahead.
His whole thing that he was looking for a payday.
Mm-hmm.
And what he done now was he associated himself with the worst type of people when it comes to the hunting industry, the people that are untouched. If you go to try to be on the Moultrie Mobile pro staff and you fill out that application, it asks you, have you ever been convicted of a game violation? And that's, hunting without your federal bird stamp in your pocket, stuff, little stupid stuff. You get tickets all the time. Fishing with the wrong type of lure, you'll get a ticket for that. And that just disqualifies that company from being able to put their name on your name.
Yeah.
And all he did was tarnish his ability to ever make a living at hunting as far as professionally. He's not ever going to be able to do that. And the thing is, if you can go out and you can find that deer and you can kill that deer, you could probably do it professionally.
Well, I don't know. I heard some stuff. Apparently there's a video he has that supposedly is going to come out. Some guys I was listening to today said that they have it, and they have proof. Like, they have messages going back and forth with CJ after all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil it for you because you were actually about to listen to the episode. But for people who want to hear it, it's the what did I say it was? The Deer Studio podcast.
It's the Deer Shop
podcast. Their episode was amazing on this, and the conversation they had with CJ, I highly recommend people go listen to it because it really shows you the type of person he is. And there's a video that he claims he has and apparently sent to them multiple times of him spotlighting this big buck. Or they call it jacklighting. So basically it's illegal in Ohio to shine them, which I get. I mean, I've never done it. I've done it on accident looking for a deer where I turn around and there's 15 does behind me and I've got my headlamp on. That story, that was a scary story. But
and that's the definition of shining is a little skewed. Because I know in some states you can go out into a field and shine the light and use that as a form of taking inventory of what's on your property.
Yeah, some states it's legal, some states it's not.
So to me, when you tell me shining, I think Buddy's holding the spotlight and I'm about to put that thing down. I'm about to shoot it.
That's what I
shining
think.
To me.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Other than that, that's just walking through the field with your headlamp on.
Yeah, if it's illegal in Georgia, then, and my buddies at DNR, if they listen to this, hopefully they're not calling me up, but literally, dude, I was tracking a doe 2 to 3 weeks ago, and I had 15 does behind me. They were following me. I had one 10 yards pacing with me, and I just kept looking over, shined her with the headlamp because I'm looking for blood, and I hear this, and I look over, and Nancy the doe over there is just chilling. Is that considered spotlighting or jacklighting? No. Honestly, it freaked me out because I'm like, are you actually following? Yeah, I was like, why are you following me? You Wendigo skinwalker thing? Like, get out of here. But dude, that whole story was hilarious. But I kind of want to transition a little bit because we did touch on like the weirdness behind a bunch of world records. Getting the Ron Polo buck out of this, that whole story's dead, and I've beat that horse to death multiple times. But one thing I do want to bring up is so I have an issue with the scoring process from Boone and Crockett, and I don't know if Pope and Young uses this. I've actually sort of changed the hierarchy of scorers. Now I look at Buckmasters as like the best one because they don't do deductions. They don't do like if it's a common base, point, they don't deduct for that. And that's my biggest thing. Like the King buck, in my opinion, the Johnny King buck should be the world record. and there's still controversy about that. I don't know how much you know about it, but basically, when Johnny shot that buck, everything was legal. He did shoot it, I think, more. I know he shot it more than once. I think one of the bullets hit the antler, and he got it fixed. And Boone and Crockett
and he
allows
got it
that.
fixed.
Yeah, they allow that. But when he got it scored, they tried to say that there was a common base point, and so that took away from it. I've listened to the Hunter's Advantage episode with Johnny and I forget the other guy's name. That whole story blows my mind, and it makes me wonder, and this is why I believe CJ at first, because I'm like, well, you've got Boone and Crockett over here saying, oh, well, we don't want that ugly buck, being the world record because it's not as pretty as Milo's. Well, who's to say that ODNR or whatever wasn't trying to make an example, or not make an example, but basically do somewhat of the same thing with CJ? Obviously, that's not the case, but I feel like we need to change the scoring stuff.
When his story first come out, the first thing I thought, because I am kind of a conspiracy goof, the first thing I thought was Milo Hansen, the estate, because that deer is their deer, and they're leasing it out to places and stuff like that. That is a cash making trophy. Okay.
Well, he just sold it.
Yeah.
He
did
just
he sell
sold
it to Bass Pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For like over $1 million.
Yeah, like $1.3 million or something like that.
Which I don't blame him, dude. I would too. But it's again, it goes back to it.
Yeah, but still being in the Bass Pro, Museum, having your name on the buck.
Yeah.
That's still, Milo Hansen, world record buck killer. That's how his life is going to be the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And the moment a deer comes up and takes its spot, Milo Hansen's name and deer are no longer anywhere near as valuable.
Nope. Not when you're number two.
Number two don't pay. Number one does.
Yep.
So there's been there's some different podcasts. I can't think of the name right now, but they kind of shine light on things that have happened with people who have big bucks come out, and they're kind of like the first people to reach out. Like, hey, we'll pay you an undisclosed amount of money to keep your mouth closed. Yep.
Which is stupid. And
that's like the definition of corruption to me, is 100%.
That's why I have a problem with it. Because I know for a fact right now that the world record typical is alive and walking around. There is one out there somewhere. I don't know where. If I did, I wouldn't be here right now. But I know out there he's walking around.
It just hasn't been killed yet.
Exactly. So what's going to happen when that deer is killed? And it's undeniable. Like, imagine the general. That 226-inch typical, that's the most beautiful deer I've ever seen in my life as far as typicals are concerned. What happens when a deer like that gets killed and there is no disputing it? There is no common base. Even with deductions, it still beats Hansen's buck. What are you going to do then? Are they going to make a new rule? Like, oh, well, the beams are supposed to be straight, not curved up and flare. Like, what are they?
I mean, they're in the business of protecting that, because like I said, the Hansen buck's made a lot of money over its lifetime since it died. So they're in the business of protecting that buck, and it protects their integrity and protects that buck and everything else if nobody ever touches it. So I think that that's going to be a big thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, the way I view scoring, if you're going to do Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, and Buckmasters, they need to come together as the three groups and decide a scoring system that they're all going to go by. Yeah. But as far as I know, Boone and Crockett they don't get down with Pope and Young like that, and they ain't going to compromise.
So, from what I understand, Pope and Young uses Boone and Crockett's scoring method. Buckmasters does not. Buckmasters will give you everything that deer's got. There is still a net score, but they go off of the gross score. Net is just, I guess, to show how many deductions there will be.
Do they do the dry score, though?
I don't think so.
Or do they do, like...
I think it's green score.
If it's green score...
See, and that's another thing for me is, like, the way we do this scoring, why let it dry for 60 days? It's stupid. And why is there a net score? That makes no sense to me. Because every single deer that I've ever looked at, if you tell me that a buck is so I'll use CJ's buck as an example. because honestly, that's a really good example. Even with it being poached, whatever. 235-inch gross, typical, is insane.
Yeah.
But when you actually do the deductions, it's 209 or 206. Where'd those antlers, where'd the inches go?
Where'd the inches go?
Yeah, because if you look at that deer, and that's without the drying period. With the drying period, I think it would be like high 190s. You're crazy if you think that dinosaur of a deer is 190. I mean, I saw the video of that rack on the Hunter podcast, and that is not a 190-inch deer, man. I mean, there's no way. So I've had a bone to pick with them, and I understand. I'm not trying to throw these guys under the bus. I know Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young and Buckmasters. I mean, really, I'm taking Buckmasters out of it because I like what they do. But Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett, they've done so much for the hunting industry.
Yeah, and for wildlife conservation.
Exactly. I get it, and I support them 100%. I just think we need to tweak it a bit because nets are for fish and deductions are stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If I knew how to score deer and I killed the deer and I scored it, common people would just say, man, I put the tape on it and it was, 135 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
If it shrinks while it's at the taxidermist and comes back, I'm still going to tell everybody that I know it's 135 deer.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I mean.
Dude, so my buddy Josh killed a deer, his biggest deer in, let me think. He killed a 132 in 2021 or 2020. I don't remember, or it was 2020. Yeah. Right down the road from my house. Right. He went 4 years not shooting anything close to that. And then the night that I saw Trike 3 weeks ago, he shot this 8-point that we tracked for a mile, which was insane. It was super, super long story. I was so sore, dude. My God. But it was a huge deer. I was holding I didn't take a photo, I should have, but I was holding that buck looking at it and thinking, this is a Pope and Young all day long. All day long. Has to be. Because I mean, dude, super wide, really good time length, all this stuff. Came out to be a 121 gross, 119 net. And I was looking at that score sheet he sent me, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. But again, that buck was perfect. Where did the deductions come from? And again, I don't know how to score deer like that, but it's like and that's why I kind of went away from putting a score on deer, because it's like putting a score on deer to me. If I had that deer on this wall, oh, dude, I'd be sitting here with it right now during the podcast. Like, look at it. Look how big he is. And to think that he's one thing and then him come out to be another, I know in 5 years that buck's going to probably be 117 net, 119 gross. But to me and to him, it's still a 121. And I still think it was bigger than that. But I'm not a scorer. So
that whole, I mean, I feel like if you have them all, if you have Pope and Young score, Boone and Crockett score, and Buckmaster score, you take the biggest number.
Oh, 100%.
And that's the number I roll with. But the scoring mentality is kind of a hindrance to what the whole wildlife thing is really supposed to be about. We want to kill mature animals they're gonna have a hard death in the wild if we don't harvest them and put that meat to use.
Yep.
So to me, it just makes no sense. I'm gonna invest all this time, energy, and some people money. I do it at the bottom cost, at bottom dollar, in chasing around a deer that I hunt Spalding County. I'm not killing a Boone and Crockett in Spalding County.
Yeah, there could be a couple.
There might be, but I know where he ain't, and it ain't where I hunt at. So I kill what excites me, what I think looks good, what I could be proud about when I show it to other people. And some people are like, man, that's a nice deer. And then some people are like, dude, I've been hunting 35 years. That's the biggest deer I've ever seen.
Dude, let me tell you this story real quick. And I know we're kind of running a little short on time, which sucks. We got to do another one here soon, because there's still so many things I want to talk about. I hate that I'm constricted on time this time, but I got a good buddy of mine who reminds me a lot of you, where he kills multiple deer a year. And he is able to get on. He hunts in a county that I used to hunt on that they have or hunt in that if you want to kill a 150 or higher, you don't got to drive all the way to Atlanta to do it. This county has these bucks. I've hunted these bucks. I've got a photo of one of them, actually a couple of them. Never killed one, but I was also really new to it. Well, he's not. This dude knows what he's doing. So he was hunting, and I'm not going to name drop him because I'll tell you what, man. There was some talk of arson at the end of this story. I'll tell you why. But and obviously I'm joking. I would never do that. But I was fired up, and so he calls me up on Monday, and was like, "Man, I was hunting last night, and this this deer showed up I've never seen before. Giant 10, had to be 150, 160." And I was like, "Did you shoot him?" Like, you didn't send me any photos. He's like, "Man." So I shot him. He's like, "I'm gonna send you the video. You can't see the shot, but you can hear it." I went and tracked. I called a dog, and I could not find him. As I was leaving, I saw him at the front of the neighborhood in someone's yard, and it looked like I hit him high, like through the back straps. He called it no man's land. I don't buy into that. I've looked at deer anatomy.
Dude, I done it with a rifle one time, and it just knocked the deer. It knocked the doe out.
Yeah,
Knocked her out. She was unconscious for a little while, and
I mean,
got out and walked away.
Deer are weird. Okay, deer are just weird animals. They're made of jello as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so he tells me all this stuff, right? And we're on the phone just talking. I'm kind of trying to help him, feel better and just get back in the game and all that stuff. And I saw the video, heard the shot. To me, it sounded like double lung. It truly did. Because when you shoot him with a mechanical,
it's smack.
Yeah, it's smack, pah. And so I'm like, bro, he's dead. I was like, I know you saw him. I know what you told me, but he is dead. Well, as we're talking about this, he gets a call from the landowner. And so he hangs up, calls me back. He's like, dude, you won't believe it. I'm on the way over there right now. He's like, the landowner just called me, said that she saw buzzards flying around the front of the neighborhood. And he was like, do you think it's him? I was like, well, you were hunting yesterday. If you're the only person hunting around there, it's probably him. I was like, don't get too excited because you don't know yet, but just get up there, talk to the owner of the property he's on, go get him, call me or FaceTime me when you're done. So like 20 minutes go by, he gets up there, he calls me back. He's like, man, I've been on the highest of highs and the lowest of lows today. And I was like, oh shit, what happened? So here's what he told me. He gets up there, he's looking around for the deer and can't find it. Goes to the homeowner's house, knocks on the door, says, hey, I was hunting here yesterday, or I was hunting down the street yesterday. Shot this really big deer. The landowner back there called me and told me, she saw buzzards up around your house. I'm just curious if you saw any big deer that, may have died on your property. And this is what the homeowner said. They said, yeah, this morning we got up and we saw this giant buck was dead in our yard. And so he stops them and he goes, oh, well, is it still there? And they're like, no, we called our buddy that's a hunter and had him come and pick it up. And so it's not here anymore. He took it with him. And so my buddy is like, well,
heartbroken.
Oh, dude, it gets so much worse. This is where my aggression starts coming in after he tells me this. So he's like, well, can I call the guy? Like, I shot that deer yesterday just so I can, or I shot a deer that was really big yesterday. I just want to make sure it's him. So they give him the guy's number. He calls him up and he's like, hey man, gives him his name. He's like, I was hunting over here around this area yesterday, shot this buck. They told me you picked up a buck from them this morning. Can you tell me what it looks like? Sure enough, dude, it was the same exact deer. Now, this is where the story, like I've said a couple times already, got me freaking heated and mad, and I wanted to do things that I would not be proud of. The guy tells him that it's this deer, and he's all, oh, well, is there any way I could get the deer back? Like, that's one of my biggest deer that I've shot. I spent all this time looking for it, called the dog, blah, 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 blah. And the guy goes, and you know what? I hope this dude listens to this podcast because I want him to know what a piece of crap he is. He goes, man, I'm going to be honest. I kind of want to keep this deer. He's like, because I've never seen a deer this big before, and it's really cool. And I'd really like to keep it. So he's like, I don't think I can let go of it.
At that point in time, go burn his house down.
Thank you. That's what I said. I was like, dude, find out where he's at. Let's I can't say this publicly, but I wanted to do some things I shouldn't. And obviously, I would not do that. I would never, ever do that. But the rage I felt, I put myself in his shoes and I'm like, if I shot a deer like that, I would I would do everything I could to get that deer back. That's a 150-inch deer.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
So
it made me
I
sick, dude.
we had a similar situation. Now I've never really shot a deer, especially I shoot a Weatherby 300 Magnum. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, if it hits the deer, it don't really matter where they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went out to that piece of property last year. Me and my buddy are standing in the field, looking at the field, discussing where we're trying to move my setup because we're not getting the most out of that piece of property. And we're talking about it, and I take my rifle with me every time because kind of like when you're cutting a cornfield, they'll walk up out of the trees and just stand there.
Oh yeah.
So deer are kind of funny like that. When you ain't dressed to hunt, they'll show up for a hunt. Weird. So I'm standing there with my rifle, me and my buddy, and we're standing there talking about it. And I look over and I see 350 yards, and I can see his rack.
Mm.
And I'm like, dude, that's a deer over there, and that's a huge deer. That's not like a big deer. That's a huge deer.
Yeah.
And my buddy's like, I've been looking over there, but that's just a bush. I said, no, dude, that's a deer. I can see its eyes and its nose. That's a deer. So I looked at it through the scope, and I'm like, oh shit, that's a really huge deer. We got to get this deer. I hand my buddy the rifle, and he looks at the scope. He's never killed a big buck. I just want to see the deer dead. I don't care if you kill it, your grandmama, I don't care. So he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, we're going to go shoot him. What do you mean? So he was like, are you going to shoot him? And I was like, no, you shoot him. You got the rifle, shoot him.
Yeah.
I know the rifle's on. And it was like, we're here, deer's here, and we meet like this. It was a 60-yard shot.
Oh, wow.
With that Weatherby. And when he shot it, the deer jumped, turned around, and I could see the wound on the left side. Because by that point in time, he's done handed me the rifle back, and I done put another one in the barrel.
Yeah.
And I'm looking through the scope at the deer, and I can see that his whole left side is just having a hard time.
Gone.
And I mean, his arm was flopping and whatnot, not to be too graphic, but his arm was flopping and stuff. And I'm like, and he looked like he was about to wobble and just cave over. This is a huge deer, biggest deer I've ever seen. And like I said, I've killed some nice ones. So I'm like, dude, did you hit him? And he was like, yeah, dude, I shot him right behind the front leg, man. I mean, he should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, if you shot him right behind the front leg with that firearm, he'd be dead 30 foot from where you shot him.
Yeah, he would not be running off.
So I thought just maybe he kind of clipped him brisket shot and maybe took out the vitals in one lung, and he's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
We tracked that deer for 4 hours, 2 miles, everything, trying to find this deer. And mind you this, there's other people's property. So we're having to stop at the property line, walk the fence, and find wherever he's coming back across the fence into our property and keep trying to find him. And the whole time, my buddy's asking me, he's like, Corley, do you think I should call the drone and just have him come out here with the drone?
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, we ain't balling, we ain't rich. Looking back on it now, we should have called the drone because that was a huge deer.
I definitely would have.
So I learned my lesson with big deer going missing because I'm sure his head's dead somewhere at another person's piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
I learned my lesson last year. If they're big enough, it's $250 to get them to come out there. And they're going to locate it. If it's dead, it's dead. You might have to go get it yourself, especially if it's on somebody else's property. But that's the cool thing about a drone. That drone can go on anybody's property.
Yeah.
There's no property line 1,000 foot in the air.
Yeah, so, dude, that's a whole nother topic we could spend 3 hours talking about. Because I'm all for drones. I'll make it simple. I'm all for them, unless you're using them for scouting purposes or poaching purposes. Other than that, I got nothing against it. Like, I still want to make it and that's, I think, why I only bow hunt is like you were saying earlier, you know, once rifle season comes in, you jump to a gun. I have nothing against that. I think it's definitely more lethal. It's more accurate. They die quicker. I'm all for it. But I also feel like I like giving the animal as much of a opportunity. Yeah, because dude, I mean, I've missed one, lost two, and or actually three, and as far as I know, they're still alive. You know, like
Yeah.
I have one deer that I named Scarlet, Scar for short, because she has the scar on her shoulder where I shot her last year, and she's doing good. She's the biggest doe on the property. That girl got fat. So
I guarantee you ain't getting close to her again.
I have, dude. I've gotten close to her so many times, and the second I was gonna shoot her again, she spooked off because the neighbor. Long story short, my in-laws were at the house because that 1 acre property I was hunting.
Yeah.
I'm like right next to the house, basically. Well, my brother-in-law's sister was going to leave, and I had my bow up. I was literally lifting up to draw back, and as soon as I, got it up and was about to start, I heard the car start, and she looked up, not at me, but she looked up and just was like, "Nope." Came back.
Not
It was freaking, and
them,
that's the same day that I shot a doe and lost her. So
that's tough.
yeah, it wasn't fun.
To me, it's definitely harder to kill an old mature doe than it is to kill an old mature buck.
Well, if that's the case, then I suck because I had so many opportunities at her. I've had one shot at trike or actually two shots. Both times I messed it up. So
you gotta go set up in his living room. Not
That's the problem. I basically am, and I can't go anywhere else. And he knows it. That deer is, and I guess I'll end it. I'll end this episode with this. Trike is the bane of my existence right now. I don't even want to hunt him. I don't. He disappears for a couple days. I think he's dead. I thought he was dead last week. He was there. I said it earlier. He was there when I showed up at the property. I sat for 20 minutes, changed my clothes, watched some TikTok videos, kept going back every time I got a photo notification every 30 seconds. And he was in there at 6 o'clock. I got in that tree at 6:30. I promise you, I passed him going to the spot. Just the way that the whole landscape is set up, I have to take the dirt road in. You got woods on both sides. I promise you, I passed that deer. But it was dark, so I couldn't see him. And I'm not going to go shoot him on someone else's property anyway. No. And dude, I was grunting. I was bleat cannon, rattling a little bit.
And,
nothing.
Hey, look, the best strategy I found for killing deer is sit down, be quiet, don't move.
Yeah. Now, but see, this time of year, I wouldn't. This is the only time that I call. Like I've got about a 4-week window where I call, and everything else I can do.
October the 27th. Strange. I've seen more deer movement as far as bucks.
Mm-hmm.
The week of the 27th, October the 27th, through like the 14th of November, my time in the woods. So during that time, I'm going to pull out all the stops to try to kill a buck. So most of the time I'm doe hunting, and if a buck walks out, I might take him. But during that period of time, that's when I think you could possibly call doe can and estrus them. But eventually, at some point in time, you might be overdoing the estrus and shit. And Georgia deer known for not responding to calls. So that's another thing.
What's funny about that is I've called in. I'll tell you the story real quick. Last week, I shot that doe I shot. I called her in with a bleed cane. Yeah. Not even gonna lie, dude, because they were there in front of me and I was about to shoot. I got full draw and everything, and then as soon as I did, she was following the other to the left. So I was like, "Meh, meh, meh," and she wouldn't stop. So she goes down the power line, goes back up, circles around. 20 minutes later, I see them on the street across the other side of the woods. So it's maybe 70, 80 yards, but I can't shoot, obviously. And it was getting to the time where I wanted to get down anyway. So I was like, you know what, dude? I'm just gonna try it, just to see what happens. So I pull the old can out and I just do two little meh like that. Dude, you should have seen. They were just cruising along like that, and they heard that and they go,
"Hey!" And it's and they turned.
Yeah, and they turned and came right down. And I'm like, as I'm watching them, I got my bow down, I'm clipped on, I'm ready to go. I'm like, there's no way that just worked. There's no way.
No way.
I've called in a giant buck before doing that, but I have never in my life called a doe in. I mean, it's insane.
I will say this. I've used that that doe can a couple times, and I've never caught a buck in with it, but I've caught plenty of does in with it.
Really? That's
Yeah.
so crazy. I mean, I called a giant buck in with that and a grunt sequence 3 years ago. And I still to this day say he was 150, 160 on public, which is unheard of. Biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. And I would have killed him had I been facing the other way on the tree. I didn't realize where they were coming from, and it was a rookie mistake. That's the only time I've ever called a buck in using that. Every other time, it's either been nothing or a doe, and that's one time.
Well, last year I had an experience where we have a piece of property you can walk in, and I know you're pressed for time, but we have a piece of property you can walk in, and it kind of comes to a little bit of a hill and then goes down into a tree line. So we get to that hill and you can see the whole piece of property. I'm looking in the trees and I can see these bucks hanging out, and they're kind of, rubbing each other up a little bit, filling each other out. And I was like, well, I'm going to try it. Hit a snort wheeze. And that's the only time I've ever seen a male deer, a buck, respond to anything. I hit just the snort wheeze. And every one of those deer instantly come up, neck swelled, and they all started moving to me.
Oh,
and
wow.
The leader, the one I guess that felt like he was the biggest one of them all, he had no problem. He was 25 foot away from me. And I'm standing there in my whole hunt get up. I've got my head, I've got a ghillie suit that goes over my head. And I'm standing there in the middle of this field with this rifle. My daughter standing beside me. And he walked 20 foot up. And I didn't have no more buck tags. So I couldn't shoot him. And I was thinking, I'll probably never get another shot like that. But he walked up 25 foot, looked, and just kind of turned his head and walked back to where he came from, like he never knew I was there.
See, I've tried snort wheezing, and granted, I didn't see any deer when I did it. I was just bored and was like, let me just real quick to see what happens. Nothing. I'm sure every deer that was in there just gone.
You hit that snort wheeze and everybody was like, hey, let's bounce.
Yep. That's exactly what I pictured when I did it. I was like, man, why did I do that? And it was early in a hunt. This was years ago, but it was on this small property.
It's like I told you at TAC. I've never, up until last year, I never had any rut activity. Never seen it.
Dude, you know my opinion on the rut. For some reason, I'm a little more confident in it this year. I think it's because I'm actually going hunting on the 25th all day, which is when on this one specific property, I looked back at it last night at 8:34, the past 2 years, 8:34, 2 shooter bucks have daylighted. That one buck I told you about, Tank, he daylighted in 22. Last year, this other big 8-point daylighted at the same exact time on the same exact day. Not in the same spot, maybe about 200 yards further back, but that's where I'll be at. And I've already got this 10-point I call Splits, who is consistent. He's coming in every night, not in daylight, but he'll be in there every few hours. And I'm just like, dude, all it's going to take, because he's got to be bedded close, maybe 200 yards, 100 yards away. As long as I can slip in there, get up in the tree, wait for the sun to come up. If I can do that doe can, a little bit of rattle, maybe some grunting, he might show up. I'm not saying he will, but he might. So
it took me 2 full deer seasons to get that piece of property where this weekend I'm fairly certain I can walk into that field if it's the right temperature and the hurricane probably threw the path of their hormones off a little bit too.
Yeah.
So if all things work out well and it feels right, I'm pretty sure I could walk into that piece of property on the 27th or the 28th and hit a bleak can and call in a buck. Well, I'm going to try it. Not sure if it's going to work.
Well, if it works, you better FaceTime me because I want to see it.
Well, this one right here, this one I showed you, this one, I hit him with a bleak can, and the doe actually come running to me, and he was chasing the doe.
Oh, wow.
So, and it was just his, and they ran right across my face.
Yeah.
It's always the weirdest stuff that happens to me for some reason.
Well, it's like I said, the bleak can, I've called in 2 bucks with it. One of them was that giant. The other was this buck that eventually I ended up naming Nugget over at this old property. This dude was huge. I mean, just fat, like big 8-point. At the time, he wasn't. He was maybe 2.5 and just a little spindly little 8-point. But every other time, dude, it's either scared deer or it calls in a doe. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm not shooting does for another month. The pre-rut is happening. I've been seeing bucks chasing. I watched a spike chase one of the does that I shot last week. This dude came trotting down, nose down, and everything. Went down to the power line, or the end of the power line, came back up, nudged these 2 does down. He walked off because they weren't, responding to him. Yeah. And then one of them ended up taking a ride in the truck. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and I noticed Tuesday I had a lot more. It was at night, but I had a lot more. One property that's not known for bucks, the property that's not known for bucks that I hunt.
Yeah.
There were all kind of bucks in there all through the night. I mean, you talking about consistent doe pictures all summer, all spring, all deep winter. And then all of a sudden on Tuesday in October, all of a sudden now there's 7 bucks working through that same area. It's like, yeah, they're looking for something. They're not just there for the fun of it.
Well, sounds like you're gonna have a good rest of the season.
Hey, I hope it picks up. Or if not, we're gonna be starving to death. I'm gonna have to go to a soup kitchen.
You'll be all right. I got faith in you. But anyway, man, thank you for coming on. I definitely want to do another one where we can actually dive into more than just like the current event stuff and like our conspiracies about, big deer. That's what I like to call it. It's kind of like our version of big pharma. But it's just a lot of things have been happening lately. The whole CJ thing pisses me off. The whole scoring thing, like saying a deer is smaller than what it actually is. I'm not for that. But before we sign off of here, why don't you give us a shameless plug where everyone can find you? And then next time we'll talk more about the YouTube channel. We'll talk more about your tactics. I know we touched on that a little bit, but there's definitely more to it. But yeah, give us a shameless plug real quick before we get out of here.
Alrighty, so me and my daughter run Deadweight Outdoors. It's on YouTube. We have a TikTok. There's actually 2 TikToks account. One's linked to my wife's phone, but she's horrible at doing social media. She doesn't understand you have to post in order for it to be successful. So there's actually 2 accounts for TikTok. You can follow them both. I have a TikTok. I'm not going to tell you my TikToks for everybody. I say some outlandish stuff online. Kind of fancy myself a part-time comedian, but that don't make me funny. But we're out here. We're trying to do things at the bottom dollar cost. We don't want to put off the image that everything you do in this industry has to cost. In this particular recreational sport, has to cost an arm and a leg. I shoot a bare legit bow for a reason, because of the price point, and I'm sure I can kill a deer with it. I shoot the cheapest thing I can find because I'm going to keep the cost down. And that's the whole point of our thing. We also do reviews and stuff on things like buck bourbon deer feed. Horrible. Won't ever use it. Hate it. Doesn't work. Runs the deer away.
What?
Yeah. It is the worst. I'm telling you, bro. I've tried it several different times, and I actually have a video I've been waiting to put on YouTube. And I've got 3 different baits piles. I got 3 different cameras running. And the 2 that we put the buck bourbon stuff at, deer would not come to.
Is it the 110?
It's the butterscotch apple.
Oh, okay.
It's butterscotch apple. I don't know if it throws them off or something, but the deer would not come to that.
I've had that happen a couple times. Try the 110. That 110 is great. Just get the little 6-pound bag, and I'm telling you.
Oh, you're talking about like the actual fiber, like the grain stuff. Because like feed, you're talking about feed, not the juice. Well, see, I normally run just corn. So I use the juice as like an additive. And I use the buck dam stuff, and that works. Dude, they'll kill you over the sugar beet stuff. So it's
I thought you were talking about the feed.
No, the feed itself, I mean, their feed is high priced. And I have used their little block. I have used it, and it did the same thing as the butterscotch apple thing. It's like they would not come to it.
Yeah, the block is questionable. The one I've always used, because I've used all their stuff. I've been using their stuff for years. The one that never fails is the 110 proof. the carrying bag or the 25-pound bag.
Yeah.
If you got that, I would suggest trying that because if you smell it, it smells amazing. It smells like straight up whiskey, dude. It's awesome. I love whiskey. So I'm a little biased, but it works really
I
good.
guarantee you, you gave me a recommendation. I'll go buy it, put it out, and I'll make a video about it.
Try it. It's only, I think it's like $10 for an 8-pound bag or something. It'll be gone. Now, maybe, all right, let me say this. Right now, it probably won't show you how good it is because of Acorn. Like I put some out a couple weeks ago and it took them way longer to finish it than it did earlier.
Yeah.
I put that stuff out before and it's gone.
And everything else are dropping right now. So
yeah, like I put that stuff out and it's been gone in less than a day. I mean, literally.
But I'm willing to try everything. I may have been a little too harsh. Everything I've had so far hasn't worked.
Okay.
But you put me on to something else, and I guarantee you I'll give it a try. And I'll go back and add that to a second part of the video.
Okay, so do this. Do this. I have a request. This is a viewer's request, and then we'll wrap this up. Try the Buck Bourbon 110 proof in the little 6-pound bag.
Yep.
Also get the deer candy. I forget exactly what it's called, but that's all that you'll have to see is deer candy. It's a green bag. It is peanuts, molasses, and roasted soybeans in like a granular thing, like dust, basically.
Yeah.
That is by far the best stuff I've ever used throughout the entire season. It literally works so good.
There's a company in Meansville, Georgia. It's right down the road from where I live. And they produce something like that, and it's called Timber Time. And that thing calls up your dead relatives. That's the best, dude. Coyotes will come into it with no prey animal there. It's the weirdest feed I've ever had. And then one of our properties has feral bull on it. It's a problem. The bull is. And if I put that feed out there, he'll come over there and eat everything.
Okay, well, don't do it there.
I'm not.
Don't do it there.
It costs too much to put it out there.
Yeah.
I'll take that into consideration. We do reviews on stuff like that, and the whole point is to show people that you can do this with a budget in mind. If the deer meat's costing more than what beef costs, which is astronomical right now, then there's no point in you wasting your time and money killing deer.
Yeah.
So we want to keep it low cost. We want to use what works. So we try to do reviews on the things that we do use, valuable products that aren't gimmicks. And some things in the hunting industry we all know are gimmicks. There is a cough silencer out there that does not work.
Yeah. That you're just opening up rabbit holes for me, man. Awesome, dude. Well, look, we will definitely do another episode sooner than later. Because I want to cover all of this. I do. So we'll figure that out. But dude, thank you for coming on. Sorry we had to cut it short. But good luck this weekend. And, seriously, FaceTime me if you shoot them. I don't care if I'm at work. If I don't answer, I'm with the family. If I do answer, I'm not with the family. When I'm with the family, I don't really. Yeah. Send me a picture no matter what. Just shoot me a text like, hey, man, you free? If it's any day during the week and it's like morning time or before, now, basically, dude, FaceTime me, call me, whatever. If it happens, I will 100% answer because I'll know why you're calling. So awesome, dude. Well, thank you for coming on, man.
I appreciate you letting me come on.
Yeah, of course.
And plug the YouTube and everything else. And I love your podcast. I've been listening to it for a long time because not very many podcasts cover hunting in Georgia. I don't need to know how to hunt in Colorado. I need to know how to hunt here. And when I started hunting, I started listening to your podcast as soon as you put it up. So I appreciate
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
There's some with big money behind them that still ain't as good as yours.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm still sorry. Some of the stuff I put out, that you're a trooper. I'll just say that. Yeah, I appreciate it though, man.
I'm loyal to you, dog.
Oh, well, hey, that's hard to come by these days, dude. That's really hard to come by. So awesome, man. Well, yeah, we'll set up another one. And thank you for coming on, dude. It was a good time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.